the 120th episode of the Bronx Mamba Babble podcast. I'm your host, Matt Luigi, and tonight it's me, it's Andrew, and it's G. How we doing, fellas?
Good to have you back, man.
How's it
Yeah, it's
going?
good. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I had some laptop issues. Obviously, I've been busy with work over the past year or so. It's like almost every week, but yeah, had some laptop issues. But you know what? We're back. We're better than ever, and hey, our Yankees are still the best team in baseball, right? They've definitely come back down to earth just a bit the last couple weeks, right? Uh, last two series, there's been two splits, right? One against the Pirates, then one against the rival Red Sox in a series which started off great and then ended in kind of, sloppy, very disappointing fashion. We'll get all into that. Uh, but yeah, guys, I mean, we're still 14 games up in the division. It seems like the four other teams in the AL East are all kind of just beating each other up. Like I said in the pre-show while we were talking, we all thought that the top four teams in the AL East were just all going to beat each other up this year. It's actually the bottom four teams because I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what the O's are doing, but they're the hottest team in baseball and they're a few games out of the playoff spot. So yeah, the AL East is just kind of beating each other up. The Yankees still have a comfortable lead, but there's still some holes to be filled. We're going to get into that. We're going to recap the Red Sox series, but guys, that was if anytime you go into Fenway and get a split in a 4-game set, you really can't be too mad. The Red Sox didn't gain any ground, whatever, but the way they lost those two games was definitely frustrating, to say the least.
Yeah, if you told me 5, 6 days ago that the Yankees are going to split a 4-game set in Boston, I'd be like, yeah, all right, that's fine. It's not ideal, considering how,
Exactly.
how good this team has been, but I'm content with that. But the way they went out and took big leads in three or I guess all 4 games they had a
Every
lead.
game,
I
yep.
I saw some weird stat last night. I forget at what point it was actually posted, but it said up to a certain point the Red Sox had only led in I think it was 5 of the first 36 innings or something like that, and yet they were on the cusp of 36 would be 4 full games less, well, with the extra innings. So it was probably 1 inning shy of, the ninth inning last night. So they had only held the lead or were tied in, I think, 5 of the first 36 innings. They were there 1 inning away from a split, and it almost didn't feel that way. Yankees have a weird tendency of never being able to hold a lead in Fenway Park. And it just feels like anytime you go up 3, 4 runs, you're just clinging for dear life. They almost gave away a game on Thursday. They almost gave a game away on Friday, then kind of tacked on late to put that one away. They did give away leads on Saturday and Sunday, so it was a very unsatisfying split. Not the tone was a lot different after taking the first 2 games, Thursday and Friday, and thinking like we can really bury these guys, and we didn't.
Exactly. That's the frustrating part. Like there was just a sense of, okay, hey man, if we go into Fenway and sweep these guys, take 3 or 4, I mean, we really like because I mean, well, I forget what the number is exactly, but I believe the Red Sox have either like they haven't won a series against the AL East. It's either like all year or like their last 9 series against the AL East. They have not won. And obviously, that's still the case because they split. But they could have really. I mean, they could have put the Red Sox in last place. They could have or close to last place. Like, and that's not even far fetched fantasy anymore. Like I said, with the Orioles being almost basically a 500 team now, right? Yeah, so we could have really almost, I mean, virtually ended the Red Sox season because the Red Sox, they despite like their lineup still terrifies me. Obviously, Rafael Devers being just Garrett Cole's father this weekend, that was very unenjoyable despite us winning that game. Um, they still have a scary lineup and like a really scary team, but yeah, they've struggled this year. It has not been a great year for them, and we really could have just put them in the dirt, and we didn't. Right? They came, they had a big win, like extra innings win Saturday, a come from behind win Sunday, where they just kind of started embarrassing us by the end. I mean, those are the types of wins that, and I think you said this, I think on Sunday night, last night, Andrew, that those are the types of wins that really like get a team, like a light a fire under a team. Those are the types of wins that a team can really get back in the swing of things. And you don't want to give a team like the Red Sox, or your division rival, like a win like that, right, or 2 wins like that back to back, right? Like, would you be shocked if either of you guys be shocked if the Red Sox go on to win 12 of the next 13 after wins like that? No, not at all, because those are the types of wins that give a team momentum. So definitely disappointing to lose back-to-back games like that. One game where you're basically a Josh Donaldson clean double play from winning, and then another game where you're up 6-2, and with how great our pitching's been this year, just for us to end up losing 11-6, the Red Sox go 9 unanswered. That was upsetting, to say the least, in a year where there hasn't been too much to be upset about, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's definitely annoying when like you've all said, you win the first 2 games of the series, you had a lead in the third one, you had a lead in the fourth one. Like, it's very annoying to get a split like that. But just in general, it's to say like the Yankees, they're not going to face the A's, they're not going to face, the Tigers, they're not going to face whomever in the playoffs. They're going to face good teams. And it's very annoying when you give those teams hope or give those teams like an indication that they could beat you. But like all that I saw was that they are, for most of the innings that they were on the field, basically all the innings they were on the field, they were, there with the lead. And otherwise, I didn't see any indication that like the Red Sox would just walk over the Yankees in a playoff series.
I will say though, having the lead for the majority of innings really doesn't mean anything. As we saw when we split our own home series against the Astros just a couple weeks ago, the Yankees didn't lead for more than 3-4 innings that whole series. They got no hit in one game. They had 2 ninth inning comebacks, or excuse me, an 8th inning tie, and then a 9th inning walk off in one, and then a full 9th inning comeback in the other. So
yeah, we lived for like 5 minutes that series, basically.
Yeah, and then even the Friday night game, which was the least dramatic of them, it was tied through, I think, 4 or 5 innings. Tucker hit the 3-run home run, Stanton hit a solo home run, and that's kind of just where it sat the rest of the game. And yet we split that series. So yeah, there are ways that teams can scratch out wins that you really don't have any business in, and that actually is what is concerning a little bit. Just that the Red Sox have that in their DNA more than any team or franchise that I can speak of. And we've been on the wrong end of that far too often. I don't need to bring up 2004. Let's just leave it at that, right? But like there's so many times where like they are dead in the water and they find ways to win. And regardless of how the regular season standings shake out, however the AL East shakes out, if we get in a playoff matchup with them, they can pull that stuff on any given night, and that's scary.
I mean, it is, yeah, it's scary, but I also think that we're like the last couple of years, right? We get to the Red Sox, we go to Fenway Park, go to wild card game. Like, it's very likely going to be different this year because we're not going into Fenway Park for a 1-game playoff where if we lose, we go home. Where if we face them, it would be presumably in a playoff series where they would have to beat us, and we would have to beat them, of course, but they would have to beat the Yankees, 4 out of 7 times. Like, it's going to very likely be different. So I'd say we have to all factor that in. And I would say in terms of like specific instances of this weekend series, again, it's very annoying, but we're in game, 80 something. Like, there's half the season to go. Like, you'd be managing those playoff games differently. We could talk about Jameson Taillon later. He's been pretty bad lately. Where you would factor him into a playoff rotation, that's all the discussion. But all of that to say is that you'd be managing those games differently. If you find yourself up 6-2 in the 4th inning with, you maybe after he gives up a couple of hits, double off the wall, whatever, maybe you don't send it back out for another inning. Maybe the first man out of your bullpen isn't Miguel Castro. Chapman's back, Lasagna's back,
I think,
hopefully soon. Like, I think, there's lots of stuff that's going to change between now and then, but I'm just saying that, like, I think I'm more of the opinion that the Yankees left shit on the table rather than the Red Sox just came out and like grabbed it right out of their hand. Like, I think the Yankees more gave it to them, but in a way that is fixable.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, and I do agree with your point that maybe these games get managed a little differently. Part of what necessitated the bullpen maneuvers that you were referring to last night, Castro and Albert Abreu pitching in 2 games, was the starters not giving you length. And certainly you can go to a second starter if they add another arm at the trade deadline, and you have a guy like, I don't know, Tyone or Cortez coming out of the bullpen now, and then the starter only goes
Or
2-3
let's
innings,
say
or Herman,
don't.
or
Yeah, I was
Zach
gonna
Green.
say
I don't know.
Domingo Herman. Like can't count on the healthy or injured people until they're proven healthy again. But like there's
Right.
arms that'll factor in there.
Yeah,
Anyway, sorry,
and that's part of the thing too. That you look at the Yankees bullpen, and on any given night, Boone's done a masterful job managing them and getting the most out of those guys. Wandy stepped up big time in certain moments. We really liked what we were getting from Ron Marinaccio before he went down with the injury. But it did seem like if you needed big outs, there was two guys, King and Holmes. And you can't go to those guys in the fifth inning every game. Now, you may be able to go to Mike King in the fifth inning of a playoff game and get him to go 6 outs and then maybe puzzle the rest through to Holmes. Sure. And that's where the game may be factored differently. But the team as they're constructed right now, I agree that part of Boone's bullpen maneuvering this series was driven by the fact that a lot of guys are still hurt and not unavailable or not up to speed. Like Chapman may turn on the Jets and be awesome later in the year, and then he's not going to be a middle of the inning guy. DJ LeMahieu's not going to drop 2 pop-ups to blow up that inning too. So a lot of things are different. I totally get that.
Yeah, and I think, well, I mean, my prevailing 2 bits on the Red Sox series, like, I didn't, and I mean, I guess maybe it's a little different. It's sort of similar for the Houston games that they played so far. Houston is obviously very good, and they're a couple of games back or whatever. Like, they're going to be good. They're not going to go away. Unless you're an all-time great team, you're not just going to steamroll your way to a World Series championship. But I didn't see anything that makes me think like, oh, damn, like they have to get up to Houston's level. Like I saw indications that they would play, like if they played the Red Sox, I think, make some bullpen additions, maybe get another outfielder or whatever. I think if they played the Red Sox, they'd play 4 or 5 or 6 close games and the Yankees would win and it would be fun. And ultimately, I don't think we would sweat too much. Knock on wood for that, whatever you want to do. But like, I think as the season goes on, presumably, health, knock on wood for this too, you can turn the Albert Abreus into the Johnny Lasagnas. Eventually you'd add Britton. Chapman hopefully gets better, right? Maybe get another bullpen arm. And then you're off and running when Jameson Tyone throws 4 innings and you still have a lead. Like, I don't know. It's annoying when you split a series that they won the first 2 games of, but I still think I'm just imagining what will probably become of the team rather than just like projecting this team as it is right now into a playoff series.
Right. That's the thing. Like that, we don't think. Hopefully, Miguel Castro isn't getting big bullpen innings in the playoffs. Right. Like that's what we're hoping for. Let's talk about the Red Sox series though. Let's go over those 4 games real quick. Guys, first off, the Yankees, the All-Star teams were announced, and the Yankees have 6 All-Stars. Obviously, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton both starting in the outfield. Stanton just got in. Judge was the leading vote getter, so he got in easily. Garrett Cole, part of the rotation. And another guy part of the rotation, Nestor Cortez, his first All-Star appearance. Jose Trevino behind the plate. Obviously, he's not starting, but he gets the All-Star nod, his first appearance. And
The
Clay
legend.
Holmes also gets the All-Star appearance. So 6 Yankees getting All-Star nods. I mean, well-deserved, all of them. I mean, Nestor, I mean, you really could just argue and debate, like, which is the best story between Nestor, Clay, and Trevino, and who's the best story in terms of, like, their All-Star game path, because all 3 have just incredible stories. I mean, if you would have told anyone, 3-4 years ago that, hey, well, any of those 3 guys would be All-Stars, like, I don't think many people would believe you, right? Like, those guys were, like, barely major leagues at that point, so congrats to all 3 of them. Congrats to all 6 of those guys, but especially those 3. I mean, all their first All-Star game appearances. Judge's 4th. Cole, I believe it's his 3rd or 4th. And Stanton, it's his first All-Star appearance with the Yankees, which is kind of surprising when you think about it. But, yeah, Stanton did not have any All-Star game appearances with the Yankees. So, shout out to Stanton.
I'll speak up for Stanton. First of all, Trevino, Nestor Cortez, like those guys are all awesome. And especially like, Nestor's been DFA'd and re-signed and all this other stuff, comes back. And, Trevino got acquired on like the last day of spring training and he's just been awesome. people need to respect Giancarlo Stanton a little bit. Like, he was injured for a while there, but like as a Yankee, he had, what did he have? 38 and 100 his first season as a Yankee. Comes after the season after he hits 59 home runs, so people think that that's not good enough. Like, that's not an incredible season. And he hit 35 home runs and had 97 RBIs last year. Like, plays pretty good defense when he's in the outfield. Like, people just need to just lighten up on this man. Like, he's a good player.
Yeah, and even when he's in his funks, like he certainly has not been hitting the ball all that well over the last 2-3 weeks stretch. Now he's had a couple of really big hits and made them all count, right? So I think there was, what was the stat that he only had like 11 hits and 8 of them were home runs or something?
I was going to
ridiculous?
say he was like technically slumping, but also somehow hit a home run in like 5 out of 6
Yeah.
games. Like,
So if
No,
you know he's gonna
at one
come,
point he had 6 straight hits that were all home runs, and he was like 6 for 40, but like all 6 of those hits were home runs. So
yes. So and I think that's kind of the guy where if Joey Gallo was like that over the long haul, Yankee fans wouldn't be so critical or as desperate to defend him as they are, because that's okay. Now, I don't like a guy hitting 180 or below. I think Stanton's actually hitting like in the 140s over the last 10 days or so, over an extended stretch. Like, that's not good, but you can stomach periods of that if there's a lot of production mixed in, and then they're going to get a couple hits. Like, even a guy like Aaron Judge has not really been all that hot lately. He has a couple big hits mixed in with a lot of outs, but on the whole, I agree that Stanton does get a little too much hate. It didn't help that he struck out every time he came up in that 38 home run, 100 RBI first year with the Yankees, especially every time in that series against the Red Sox, every slider low and away. Kimbrel owned his ass. Like, yeah.
he went out there in the wild card game last year and just pissed all over the Red Sox, so that made me happy.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing is that if that game was in any ballpark other than Fenway Park, Stanton hits 3 home runs in a playoff game. And who the hell knows if we win that game? But that's neither here nor there.
That's why I got to beat the Orioles. Anyways, let's talk about the Red Sox series, right? So the Thursday night game, it was basically the New York Yankees versus Rafael Devers. I mean, that was the game. The Yankees come out. Remember, they scored a 6-16 run game the game before, and then they come out and just pick up right where they left off, right? Donaldson hits the grand slam. It was their 3rd grand slam in the last 2 games. Hicks goes
Donaldson
back to back.
Also been on a little bit of a heater.
Yep, Donaldson's finally picking up offensively. Obviously, he had the blunder defensively that he's going to be most known for this series for. But yeah, he's really been picking it up at the plate. Absolutely. And you know who else has been picking it up at the plate? Aaron Hicks. Look, his numbers overall still aren't great, but Chip, dude, he's 716 OPS on the year, 109 OPS plus, 357 OBP. I mean,
he's showing a pulse.
All of a sudden, it's like, well, Hicks is tolerable, and that's all we've needed Hicks to be. We don't need Hicks to be like a 30-plus home run guy, 800-plus OPS. No, we just need him to be okay. And he's been hot in the last couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, he's putting together an okay season. That's all we've needed from him. So, yeah, the next pitch after Donaldson's grand slam, Hicks goes deep, makes it 5-0. Trevino gets the RBI double to make it 6-2. And Rafael Devers, I don't know why Cole pitched to him. Obviously, Cole is not the type of guy to back down from guys, but yeah, Rafael Devers 2 home runs in this game, accounted for all 5 of the Red Sox runs. But I mean, the bullpen was outstanding in this game. Wandy to King to Holmes shut it down. The Yanks win 6-5. I do give credit to Cole for, despite giving up the 2 home runs, still getting through 6 innings. That definitely, just think of it like ominous foreshadowing. Cole getting through 6 innings was very important because, none of the other starters really gave us any length this weekend. So that was very big of Cole. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's not much I love more than the King Holmes combo. And, shout out to Wandy and even Licky. Both have been really good out of the bullpen this year. For 2 guys that we really haven't expected a lot out of. Like, both have been really solid. I mean, Licky what was it, Saturday? He ate 3 1/3 innings. He threw almost 50 pitches. That was huge for this
We're
weekend.
just not going to give Wandy too much credit because he also did piss all over himself on Saturday night.
He did, but I mean,
wasn't
look,
wasn't helped by the Donaldson
look,
error, but
like I just said though, we'll get to that. But like Wandy, we really don't expect much out of him, and overall, he has been solid this year. So you got to give him credit for that.
and he's unfortunately the third guy on the totem pole right now, with Chapman still
Right.
working his way
Yeah,
back,
it's like
with
it's not his
Loizaga
fault
still
that so
out.
many Green
Britton
and
Williams,
Britton and
yeah.
Chapman and Lasagna. It's not his fault. All like four guys ahead of him all got hurt, and now he's kind of just the third main guy in the bullpen, which is kind of scary. But yeah, that's
And
the
he's
way it is
mostly
right now.
holding his own, which is nice because like get a little, dip your toe in the high leverage innings, right? It'll serve him well when he goes back down to his flexible role.
Absolutely. So let's go to Friday. Not really much to talk about in Thursday's game other than the Yankees came out hot offensively, and they were also hot offensively Friday, man. Donaldson once again hits a big home run early on in the first for a 4-run first inning. And guys, there were 6 Yankee All-Stars. Should there have been 7? Because I think Matt Carpenter's an All-Star. I mean, where can I write in Matt Carpenter for the All-Star game? Because this guy is just a man on a mission. I mean, he is just unbelievable, man. He has been so good for the Yankees. You really just can't say enough about him. I mean, he's just been absolutely unbelievable. I mean, 3 for 4 on Friday. Hits another home run. Part of a huge game. I mean, Yankees win this one 12-5. It really was never even close. Nestor, just another rough start for Nestor. Didn't make it out of the 4th inning. 3 2/3, 8 hits, 4 runs. But
It's funny you say the game wasn't close, but there's moments where I think even you particularly were like, this is very, very bad. I think like when Castro had to wiggle out of whatever that was, the 5th inning, then Nestor set him up the mess. Like even then, the Red Sox never really got close, but there was a moment where it's like, well, if this guy pops one, it's a 1-run game all of a sudden.
it was 9-5 with the bases loaded in the 6th inning, absolutely. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was 12-5, and it never got within 4 runs. It's never a sure thing with Miguel Castro on the mound. Let's be real, but at the end of the day, he did strike out 3 guys over an inning and a third, so got to give him credit. Like I said, I mistakenly said that Saturday was the game Licky 8 innings. To Friday was the game Licky 8 3 1/3 innings for us. He struck out 6 guys over 3 1/3 innings. I mean, he was looking like Sandy Koufax out there. I mean, he was nasty. They couldn't touch Licky.
Funny thing about the Matt Carpenter thing, he's been incredible. That's like a great find for the Yankees. But every now and then, we have to throw a stray out there. So I'm just going to throw in Joey Gallo because it's really easy. Matt Carpenter.
There you go.
I'll say Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo has in 70 games, 240 plate appearances, 10 home runs, 21 RBIs. He's batting 166. Matt Carpenter in 26 games has 77 plate appearances, has 10 home runs, 22 RBIs. And he's batting 344.
Now, Jake, it's kind of tough to talk shit about Joey Gallo after he hit the triple of the year this weekend series.
Hey, that was part of the Friday game too. I forgot.
I was at that game and I was like, damn.
I was not going to go into the next game until I mentioned that because that was.
Dude, I'm sorry. That was really, really funny.
I mean, you were obviously, like you said, you were at the game, and I mean, look. Just watching it on TV, like I've never seen something where like the moment that ball was hitting, like look, I played like the outfield for years and years. And this will happen sometimes. Sometimes the ball is hit and you just do not catch it off the bat, and it is the worst feeling because you'll just kind of out of the corner of your eyes, you'll just see like everyone kind of start like look towards your direction, and like you could just tell that he just did not see that ball for 1 second. And like,
dude, Arroyo, man, it was really, really funny. Like.
The panic as each second went by was just.
And you saw him like yelling at everyone else, like, "Tell me where it is! I don't know where it is. Tell me!" Like
he started like his feet started moving so fast on the ground. He just like it was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. Like I said, "Oh my god, he does not see the ball." Like that, you really don't see that every day. And, I mean, it would have been hilarious.
Oh my god, dude, he got heat from like that whole corner of the stadium was just ruthless after that. It was pretty funny.
That was one of those highlights that like you see, and like I watched that like 10, 15 times, I think, and I just at a certain point I was just watching people in the crowd and just looking at faces, and like people were just so, and like obviously the Yankee fans in the crowd were celebrating, but all the Red Sox fans were just so, you could just tell they were just so angry. They're like pointing at the ball. They're just like telling them to get like back to the ball. Oh man, that was great. That was just absolutely hysterical. But yeah, first two games of the series, man, like we were feeling good. Life was good. We're all right. We already won two. We're about to sweep these guys. We're about to bury them, and yeah, that was not the case. Saturday's game, uh, obviously Gumby started. Gumby gave us a good outing. Classic Gumby outing, right? I mean, I always say like Gumby literally there's like an 80-90% chance like what outing he's gonna give you. 5 2/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. That's a classic Gumby outing. Another game where Hicks hits a home run. They have a big 6th inning with Rizzo and Donaldson both getting big hits. But then, I mean, guys, it was I would never thought I'd say this, but Rob Refsnyder was a real thorn in our side this weekend, man. I mean, he was freaking hitting the ball all over the place, man. He was really damn good. This was the Robbie Ref we all imagined when he was our top prospect like 6-7 years ago. I mean, shit, dude. He killed us this weekend.
The second baseman that we were just desperately hoping would replace Stephen Drew in the aftermath of Robinson Cano leaving.
Robinson Cano, Atlanta Braves starter. I don't know if you guys saw that. He's already starting for the Braves, which is wild. But yeah, this one, the Red Sox we were up 3-1. The Red Sox come back to tie it. They tie it off Clay Holmes, who we brought in the 8th off very frustrating. It's 0-2. Verdugo just punches one through the left side, tie the game. Game goes into extras. Yankees score 2. Judge gets a big double. So does Rizzo. And Rizzo inexplicably tries to steal third. He's out by like 20 feet. Turns out to be costly because the Yankees lose 6-5 off another Verdugo single. And obviously, as we've already alluded to a few times before, Donaldson, chance to turn a double play, bobbles it, only gets 1 out. Game extends, and the Red Sox win at the next batter. So
it's one thing that I will say is there was way too many outs on the bases this series. And I know that's not really who the Yankees are. It could just be an aberration.
Absolutely.
But like obviously Gallo trying to stretch his fly ball into an inside home run. Yeah, that was fine. He was kind of laughing at that. I mean, I think they were up like 7-2.
The 2 runs had already scored too. So at that point, it's like, all right, you might as well go for the.
That one was okay, but the Rizzo one was crippling. Didn't Trevino get picked off last night?
Yeah, here's the thing. Like when the Yankees have been aggressive when you're aggressive on the bases all year, like the Yankees have been. At times you're gonna get thrown out. Like it just happened. That's just what happens when you're aggressive on the bases. A lot of times it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You can't have that many outs on the bases in a big series like this. It's just that's a big no-go. That's could be the difference between taking 3 or 4 and splitting, right?
So, and I honestly think that the Rizzo one was the biggest difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he's on third with 1 out, and there's no guarantee that he scores. But even if he does, I know the Red Sox scored 3 runs to win it. But fallacy of the predetermined outcome. Maybe Wandy pitches differently with a 3-run lead, and maybe things don't even get there. You have no idea how that game shakes out. Maybe the Yankees put up a 5 spot in that inning, and it's a non-issue. Like him getting thrown out at third completely killed that inning. They got 2 runs on the board, which is nice, but it could have been a gigantic inning, and it never really was.
Yeah, that was definitely a frustrating loss between the Rizzo getting thrown out and then obviously Donaldson's blunder. Yeah, it was a tough one to swallow to say the least. But like here's the thing, you just really can't afford like I already said, you can't afford to have that many outs on the bases against a team like Red Sox. I mean, if you're Rizzo, like look, what why are you trying to steal that base, man? Like you are so slow. You are not fast, man, at all. Like it, and really, like they were showing the replay. He got such a terrible jump. Like it was just such an awful. If he got like a great jump, and then like the catcher just absolutely nails him at third, and it's a close play, so be it. Like all right, I see the vision, dude. You were out by like 10 feet. I mean, we were already up by 2. Like we've already gotten 2 doubles in the innings. Like just let us hit, dude. The momentum's there. Let the next guy get hit. It's only 1 out. Like let's, we have 2 chances to get a hit. Like let the lineup hit. So yeah, man, that was just very, very bad. It was not what you want to see. Let's go to the series finale, which it started off really good. Stanton, can we just talk about? Let's take like 30 seconds or a minute to talk about that Stanton home run in the first inning and how that was just like I don't think it went like 20 feet off the ground. It was just an absolute laser.
No, the exit velocity on that was 114. The launch angle was 16 degrees. That's unheard. That's only Stanton can hit a home run like that.
Unbelievable. Like that one was just like I thought like when he hit that, I said, "Oh, that's a double off the gap." I'm thinking like I was wondering if the runner was going to score, right? Because I'm thinking like, "Ooh, okay, let's see. Hopefully, it doesn't ground or double." And then it just goes out. And I said to myself, "Does that go out? Like, there's no way that ball looked like a fucking just a double into the gap." But yep, Stanton just has unreal exit velo. The Yankees, they hopped up to a 4-0 lead, right? Torino has another big RBI single. Even IKF got involved with an RBI single. You don't say that every day. But the Red Sox clawed back. Carpenter hits another home run in this one to make it 6-2. But like I said earlier, man, the Red Sox, they scored 9 unanswered in this game, man. It got really ugly. Tyone once again gets hit up. He's now, I believe, 20 earned runs in his last 20 in the third inning. He's really struggled of late. He went 5 innings, 6 runs in this one. Chapman comes in. Obviously, he walks a couple guys, goes a hit, struggles a bit, but did not get any help from DJ, who missed not one but 2 pop-ups. That were kind of in between him and the outfielders. It was, I believe, in my opinion, both were clearly his fault. That gave the Red Sox a run, and from there, Castro comes in, can't get an out. And the Yankees lose 11-6, and the game got pretty ugly. And they leave Boston with kind of a disappointing split.
I will say, and maybe this is just out of place here, and you guys tell me if I'm overreacting here, but I think the part of Sunday's game that actually pissed me off the most wasn't Tyone giving up the lead. It wasn't Miguel Castro pitching like shit. It was that at bat to Stanton where he didn't swing the bat one time and 3 pitches off the plate all got called for strikes.
So bad.
It was a 7-6 game at that point, I believe. So like they were still very much in it, and there was no one on base, and there was 2 outs. And I get like even if he walks, there's no guarantee that they do anything that inning. But to take the bat out of Stanton's hand in that manner, like when nothing was close to the plate, and he got called not once, not twice, but 3 times was rung up on strikes on pitches that were.
None of them. Like, they were all hilariously not close to being strikes.
Like I was about to say, you don't see that every day where like 3 pitches or none of them are a strike. Like all 3 pitches are clearly off. Not even like one clipped the zone. It was like half and half. All 3 pitches were clearly out of the zone. And it's like really at that point, it's like you are literally taking the bat out of this guy's hand. And it's a 1-run game,
the Red Sox go out.
It's BS.
And the Red Sox went back out there the next inning and added more runs. So it's like, hey, obviously, predetermined outcomes and all that stuff, whatever. But like, they took the bat out of his hands, and an opportunity, whatever opportunity it might have been, was taken from them, and the Red Sox went out there and stretched the lead the next inning. So it's really, really bullshit. But and I don't
want to be sour grapes because the Yankees could have done way more things in that game to win where that would have been a non-issue. But look, I'm just going to say something. Trip Gibson, I'm on umpire scorecards right now. 82% called strike accuracy in last night's game. That's pathetic. That's just so bad. If 1 out of every 5 pitches off the plate, you're calling a strike, or is that okay? So it's 12 of 66 called strikes were called balls. Okay, that's so bad.
Right.
I feel like people, like MLB fans generally, would maybe not be as mad or whatever. Like, we have no idea what baseball actually does, or if they do anything, to be like, hey, you know what, you did a really shitty job. Like, here's what the consequences of that are. Like, so just to be like, hey, well, hey, this guy did a shitty job, whatever. We all hear people chanting about robot umps. Like, it's bullshit. This guy did they're human beings. That's fine. But like, just to be, fans need to get some idea of what there is actually being done to improve the umpiring of these games. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be a really bad look for the league.
Speaking of robot umps, did you guys hear what A-Rod said on the K-Rod broadcast? He basically was pulling like some, well, if you're a Barry Bonds type hitter, then you deserve the extra inch inside the strike zone to be called a ball, or if you're like Randy Johnson, you get the extra inch off the plate to be called a strike. It's like he's so anti. He's not only so anti robot umps, but he thinks that like there's a level of like you earned a bigger or smaller strike zone. Like what the hell is that? What
I
a
mean, he
horrible
also probably
tuck
No,
got
take.
those calls.
No, like see, that's BS, and also BS, and a lot of umpires do this is changing the zone when it's like depending on the count, right? If it's like 3-0, and they're gonna like expand the zone a bit just to like nah, dude. If you're gonna call the ball on 1-1, call the ball on 3-up. Like,
Dude, and that's
the zone
exactly
doesn't
why
change
people think
depending on the
games
count.
are like rigged. And I know they're not, but like you look at that Stanton at bat, like the Red Sox had just taken the lead the previous inning. I think it was Sawamura was cruising through, about to finish the second inning, and like the umpire was, I don't want to say like he was in the flow of like, well, the Red Sox had the momentum, so he was kind of riding that wave, but the call backed up that thing, even if it wasn't a biased call. The fact that he was kind of like, oh, the Red Sox are doing well right now, they got a little momentum, and the calls were just going to inadvertently go their way, that's fucked up. Like you gotta pull that aside and literally call things completely in a vacuum, and he didn't.
Yeah, it just feels like these umpires just keep getting worse and worse. It really sucks. But yeah,
And not even because we have to see something about Angel Hernandez on on the internet or on SportsCenter every other day. Like completely independent of him, it seems like it's getting worse.
Yeah, but guys, any final thoughts about this Red Sox series before we talk about kind of what this team needs to improve on before the trade deadline?
Like my last words on the Red Sox series is I'm not as completely okay with them losing 2 out of 4 the way they did, but I will say that they get an immediate opportunity for revenge when Boston comes to the Bronx next weekend. So if the Yankees take 2 out of 3 in that series, they take care of their business. They don't give away leads. They don't play sloppy defense. They don't make outs on the bases. They don't have crippling bullpen late, and they just are the team that we've seen the majority of the year. Then everything's fine, right? The losses like this seed a little doubt in my mind because Boston's eliminated us from the playoffs 2 of the last 4 years already. So like that's in my mind, right? But if they go ahead and take care of business the next few times they face them, this will be far in the rearview mirror.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I get that. I would just say, like I said, I think I see nothing. Although there was plenty of annoying things, nothing to indicate that I'd be like utterly terrified that Boston would just like steamroll us in a playoff series because very likely it'll be a series and not just one game on the road. Blah blah blah. Like, all that to say, just don't leave the shit on the table. Next time you play him, if you have a lead, don't bring in fucking Albert Abreu or Miguel Castro. Don't send your starter back out there for one more inning if he's starting to get the ball hit hard off him. Just like handle your business, go into the All-Star break, and let's say minorly positive nugget amidst what was a really stupid and terrible inning. Chapman walked a couple of guys and then started to pitch a little bit better after that. So that'll be nice if he can start, keep improving a little bit. He's had a kind of a weird jump started on and off season so far, but he started to look better after Matt Blake made that mound visit.
Yeah, he basically got 5 outs, so you really can't, blame him too much for that. But yeah, so I was saying this before the show, and it really is just kind of because the Yankees at this point are 61-25, they're the best team in baseball, 14 games up in the division. But this is a team that still has some holes to fill, and usually when you have that type of record, it's like, all right, we don't need to do anything at the trade deadline, right? We're literally like over 30 games over almost 30 games over 500. We're the best team in baseball. We don't need to do anything. But I do think the Yankees could use a couple guys. I mean, obviously the Joey Gallo situation. Like we've heard rumors that I think the Rangers and I forget who else could be interested in Gallo. Like we were saying earlier, the bullpen situation. I mean, look, Loizaga is supposed to come back. Obviously, we've heard rumblings about Domingo Germán coming back. Who knows where he fits in? So maybe those guys come back and are effective, and those are kind of like our midseason additions to the bullpen, and we don't need to get anyone. But I don't know, man. We've even heard that the Yankees are still in the market for possibly a starter, right? Montes, a couple other guys are out there. I think, Andrew, you mentioned that if the White Sox keep trending downward, I mean, who knows who they may make available. But like Andrew, who do you think the Yankees kind of should be looking? I mean, there really aren't that many bullpen. I think they should add a bullpen arm or two. I mean, two guys that come to mind that are both older guys, but both experienced and good veteran arms. Uh, one very familiar name, David Robertson, and maybe it's like a Diego Castillo are two names I've heard could be on the market. But I mean, that's not like a huge splash, but I do think the Yankees need bullpen arms because, like we were saying, I mean, I don't think you could rely on Miguel Castro and Albert Abreu, and I also don't think you can rely on Loizaga and even like Chapman and Herman and all these guys coming back to form and being what they have been in the past few years.
It's definitely fair to be hesitant in trusting a guy like Loizaga recovering from his injury. Now, it's a shoulder injury, and he had the same injury at the end of last season, so it's definitely fair concern. If he comes back and he's awesome, then we'll certainly benefit from that. I do trust that whoever they go out and add, they'll probably add on the lower end in terms of relievers, like a Clay Holmes type, where there's not a lot of smoke around the guy, and then they can fix him very fast based on some underlying metrics they see. As far as like the sexy names that everyone's always saying, Andrew Benintendi is the one that everyone says the most. There was reports today that the Yankees have checked in on Michael A. Taylor, which I don't hate either because it gives you another center fielder. Judge can take a little more days at DH or back in right field, put a little less stress on his body with the lower leg injuries he's dealing with right now, and who the hell knows what's going on with Hicks. A guy that I saw in
Ian
passing,
Happ, I've heard.
yeah, Ian Happ is one. I was looking at like Albert Ormora Jr. earlier in the year, but he's on the lower end of availability. But like, what if a guy like Ramon Laureano becomes available? I know he's similar to Joey Gallo, and then he strikes out a bunch, but he definitely makes more contact. He's got the best outfield arm in baseball, and an electric defender, has a lot of speed. Like, if that guy becomes available, like, would you say? And I know the biggest thing is that what we've seen with Matt Carpenter playing the outfield and hitting well, with Aaron Hicks making a rebound, is the Yankees may not even need to upgrade the outfield. Like, that's the lower
Yeah,
priority. Now, you mentioned a
with
starter, you mentioned a
Carpenter.
reliever.
Yeah,
Let's talk about a shortstop, because I'm sick and tired of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Like, there's people who still try and tell me that he's a decent player because he hits, his batting average is what, like 270? Like, oh, batting average means nothing. And it means even less when you're only hitting singles. He has 0 home runs on the year right now. And I think his OPS plus is what, like 75? So he's 25% below a league average hitter. You mean to tell me we can't bring up a guy like Oswald Peraza from AAA and get better production? I would say we got to
yeah,
start looking at shortstops, and I don't know who's going to be available externally, but by worst case scenario, promote Peraza.
yeah. IKF 267 average, 317 OBP, 84 OPS plus. And like he hasn't even he has stolen 13 bases in 16 attempts, so that has been a positive. But defensively, he really hasn't even been that great. I mean, we've been just think of it. How many almost errors has IKF had this year? Like, how many times has IKF made a bad play that the official scorebook hasn't ruled an error, but easily could have? Like, he has not been good defensively this year at all, especially from short. So, I
was
mean,
arguing
he
with
really
someone on
hasn't
our
been.
Twitter yesterday about and
Classic.
this was the inning where it started to get away, where it was like a routine ground ball. Like, he didn't have to move. IKF fields it and then skips it to first base, and someone goes and says, "Oh, that's Rizzo's fault." I'm like, y'all, the ball bounced 5 feet in front of first base. He didn't even have to move to pick it up. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
he
even.
has
Are
not been
we
good.
lowering the bar to be like, hey, you know what, Derek Jeter? He didn't have range, but he made the routine play
Yeah,
like 9 out
lowering
of
the
10
bar for
times.
shortstop, and then out of line, raising the bar for the first baseman. It's like everyone has to be Mark Teixeira and scoop every ball in the dirt. Like, what the hell is that?
Literally,
How about just
yeah.
make
The
him
guy
the
literally
throw?
said that, and not to air out one of our followers. Thank you for following, but the guy was like, Mark Teixeira would have made that play. I'm like, cool. That's great. Mark Teixeira is an exceptional first baseman. Anthony Rizzo is too. But we're not talking about the first baseman. We're talking about the shortstop, who stinks. He's terrible. Oswald Peraza, get him up here. And his numbers for the last 30 games are pretty good. But he's like an athletic young kid. Bring some juice to the game.
Yeah, I really think that should be looked into, especially if we get to the mid end of August and the Yankees are still 15 or more up. And hey, you could afford it. All right, throw him in there for give him a month and a half of regular season experience. All right, if he does well, then he has 5-6 weeks of MLB experience under his belt before the postseason, right? Because he has been doing well in AAA. So We'll see, because I mean, it's just
Um,
unbelievable that IKF still does not have a home run. I mean, it's and we're halfway through the season. I know he only hit 8 last year. I think he only has like 20 for his career. But
Well,
yeah,
currently he's
I
on
mean,
pace for 0. So
yeah,
this was
he is
this
currently
is
on
with
pace
the
for 0.
and I'll say this because IKF. I think he's becoming like our next in line behind Joey Gallo as like the guy we rip on, but it's very justified. Like I
Yeah.
was perfectly fine, and I admit whatever. I guess you could say excited, or whatever. I was like fine with the acquisition because I was like, oh, he's good fielder. Maybe he'll hit a bunch of singles, like the occasional double. Like he really hasn't done anything to make me, whatever, justify that mild excitement. Like he's the guy who basically, if he's in the lineup, I would just bat him ninth every time because he's just not really doing anything.
Yeah, it's gonna
And
be tough. It's gonna be tough to pass Joey Gallo though with his right now.
oh
He's
no,
a
I mean, but
6.66
Joey Gallo, like
OPS with the
one of
Yankees.
you all said this, so I'm like, yeah, Joey Gallo, like I'll throw the occasional stray at him because he stinks, but like he just like he doesn't play quite as much anymore.
What was the
With
what was the Fox number they said that he only had? I think it was Fox that said he only had 2 career sack flies.
oh my God.
Yeah, that
Like,
was Ruco, and number 3
that
would have
okay, that
been,
was yes. Okay,
and number 3 would have been the ball
yeah,
that
would have been
Arroyo
the
lost in the
yeah.
stack.
That is
I just
unbelievable. Like,
the
2
funniest part
career
about
sacks.
that
How is
was
that
that
possible?
Ruco said it, and then David Cohen kept being like 2, 2, and he's got 2, 2. He only has he was like so dumbfounded. He had to keep
Yeah,
repeating it.
and like they said, and it was such a good point. Like especially for a guy that hits a lot of fly balls, like he has a fucking uppercut swing. Like you would think he'd have like 2 sacrifice flies in his career. That's like obviously he strikes out a lot. He's like a 200 career average, but yeah, that was actually shocking. That was unbelievable to find out.
And I'll point this out in terms of like trade acquisitions. I think starting, the
Juan
pitching
Soto or
side of
bust.
it. Yeah, I mean, look, 3 or 4 years from now, after he signs that $400 and whatever million contract, the Yankees are going to be knocking on the door.
Exactly.
The pitching side of it is where I'd focus, and we talked about Tyone. I am losing steam on Tyone in general, but like obviously his recent performance has been terrible. Nestor Cortez, some signs of maybe fatigue or signs that are concerning. All of that to say that I think if I was to acquire anything, it would be a starter. I don't think there's like a Verlander. Well, it's not maybe clear. I don't think there's going to be like a you have to give up your top guys for this starter kind of acquisition on the market quite yet. But I mean, I think they should get a starter. I mean, Brian Cashman has shown the ability to get a starter or get a player and not really give up much of anything.
For a starting pitcher, you're gonna have to.
Well, yeah, no, you give up something, but like I think they can get a useful, mild improvement without giving up like Anthony Volpe. John Heyman actually tweeted that today. He said like the Yankees asked about like Luis Castillo, but the Reds want either Volpe or Oswald Peraza, so like Yankees would hang up the phone pretty quickly, I think. Either way, I mean, I think you could get an improvement on the starting side. I think they should, and they probably will, but I think you could get it without giving up like top currency.
It's such a shame how well those 2 guys are doing. Peraza is hitting near like 300. Volpe's figuring out, and he also has like almost 40 steals already in July.
Yeah,
which is awesome. They're both playing good defense, but it's just frustrating how good both of them are playing, and they're the heir apparents as the next shortstop. Neither of them are ready to be promoted as of right now. I would argue that Peraza really can't be worse than IKF, but I don't think they think he's ready as of this moment. And then certainly because they're on the cusp, and you maybe think that IKF is kind of a placeholder, you're not going to trade either of them to improve another area of the roster. So you're kind of stuck in between right now. And that's almost where like a 1-year deal, like if they gave, I don't know, $30 million to Correa or something like that for 1 year, just as to see what happens kind of thing, then you're not in this situation. But I digress.
And
Peraza right now
the
724 OPS in AAA, so he's doing well, but he's not exactly lighting the world on fire. So
no, but you got to look at his numbers just over the last like 10 weeks or so. He's been
he's been very hot over the last couple of months, but overall, I'm saying he has his numbers are pretty average for AAA so far.
The Playoff Tanaka account on Twitter posted this on July 4th. Oswald Peraza since May 25th, 306, 378, 531, 140 weighted RC plus. And then maybe someone that we forgot about a little bit, Estevan Florial, since April 27th, 344, 422, 560, and 164 WRC plus. So like even if you maybe you trade Gallo or just get rid of him just because he's taken up a roster spot and he stinks. You're not going to get anything for him, but just as like we could use this roster spot, like maybe eventually you find a way to get Peraza on the roster, get Florial on the roster, like guys who are young and athletic. And then between IKF and, Peraza, Florial, and Hicks and Carpenter, you cobble together what is a, improved infield, outfield, bench rotation, that kind of thing. I don't even think you need to go outside. Maybe you do. Maybe, whomever comes available and you go get an outfielder. But, like, there's options internally that they should consider first.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone. I'd rather anyone over IKF at this point. He's, like you feel bad. Like obviously he was always they always meant for him to be a placeholder. But yeah, I'm kind of just sick of him. But yeah, guys.
He just doesn't do anything on a nightly basis. Nope. Like he doesn't. It's a shame, and especially when you're like, oh, we want it to be a Yankee. That's all well and good and wonderful. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't contribute to the game.
Guys, I'm getting from our friendly Slack chat, getting word from AC that Robinson Cano, I mentioned he's starting earlier. He has 2 hits against the Mets tonight. So
of course he does.
that's baseball, Susan. That's how it rolls. All right, guys, let's wrap up the show by looking ahead to the last week of the first half of the season. Right, we have 3-game set at home against the Reds, and then a 3-game set at home against the Red Sox, and then it's the All-Star break. Right, so Reds have been pretty bad this year. I mean, obviously, if anyone remembers, the Reds were like 3-20 to start off. So I mean, the fact that they're 32-54, like they've actually been basically a 500 team over the past couple months. So they're not as bad as their record is.
Considering they lost like 3 of their first 20.
Yeah,
they won 3 of their first 25 games.
Exactly. Like they've actually been playing okay baseball over the couple months after just like one of the worst starts you're ever gonna see. So yeah, the 3-game set. Obviously, the Yankees have been pretty good about taking care of the bad teams this year, and the good team, they've been taking care of every team, right? Cole, Sevy, and Nestor will go this week, and then it's supposed to be Gumby, Tyone, and Cole against the Red Sox this weekend. But yeah, it's important to finish the first half strong.
Can I just say something? How pissed off I am, and it's completely unfortunate. It's no one's fault. That Luis Severino's not going to get one crack at the Red Sox in 2 matchups. We play 7 games against them in 10 days. He's not going to play him one.
I noticed that, and also the fact that this game Tuesday, this is going to be the Yankees' first game at Yankee Stadium since June 29th. It's been basically 2 full weeks without a game at Yankee Stadium. That was a long road
and that honestly, I didn't really consider that could have been part of where they kind of tailed off at the end of that Red Sox series.
Right.
It's been dreary at the end of a long home road trip. And maybe it just caught up to them. I get that.
And at the end, at the end of the day, they go 5-5, or excuse me, let me see. Yeah, they go 5-5 on the road trip.
Since our last podcast was posted on June 27th, they were 8-5.
Yeah, so like any other year, you would like a 5-5 road trip against. Look, we played the Astros, the Guardians are okay, the 2 against the Pirates, 4 against the Red Sox. Like that's not an easy road trip. 5-5. Any other year, you're like cool with that, but this is a year where obviously we expect more from this team, right? We're on pace to win over 100 games. We realize there's going to be some lulls. We realize they're probably not going to win 120 plus games like they've been on pace to all year. But a couple of those losses. You never want to lose to the Pirates. The Guardians loss was kind of frustrating.
Shout out to J-Mo for that.
Shut out in one. You never want to get shut out in 1 hit against the Guardians, right? That's just not what you want to see. Even though that was kind of a punt lineup, right? It's just really no judge. There was a lot of guys sitting that game, so whatever. But yeah, 5-5 in the road trip.
Judge did wind up sitting out like a couple games, or couple stretches of a couple games.
Lower body stuff.
The old lower body thing. That's
a
like
good-
an actual quote though. Like,
Yep. Oh yeah, he's just been dealing with some lower body stuff, some soreness. Yep, classic Boone terminology. But it seems that we're pretty healthy, right? Because there was some scares. Like, Rizzo was out for a few games, Judge was out for a couple games, so it seems like we're all healthy. It seems like the All-Star break is coming at the right time, right? Obviously, six of our guys are going to the All-Star game, but most aren't. Get some good rest for that week. But yeah, guys, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, look, obviously the Yankees, you want them to continue to keep the good times rolling against a bad Reds team ahead of this next Red Sox series. But I will say that at this point in the season, more than the wins and losses, I'm really just focusing on individual performances and game
Right.
performances as a team. So look, if the Yankees are battling at the end of the season for the American League East crown, something went catastrophically wrong, or something ridiculous, like a team like Tampa or Boston wins like
Yeah,
22 out of 25 games, which like
or
if
the
that
Orioles.
happens, then fine. Yeah, but
Bro,
look, otherwise, like I'm not really concerned about the Yankees' record. Like wins and losses on a day-to-day basis don't bother me. The way they lose games will bother me more than a loss itself, right? Like I said, I don't know if it was either in one of our chats or on a previous podcast, but you lose a game, they're going to go out west in August, I think twice, two separate West Coast trips. If you lose one of those late night games against Seattle or something like that, Seattle's pretty good right now too. They've won 8 games just as the Orioles have. But if you lose one of those random late night games to a team like Oakland or Seattle, you deal with that. But it's the games against the Astros, the Red Sox that you had in your hand, you had a chance to win and you gave those away. Those ones hurt way more. And you would think that losing games against like garbage opponents would piss you off more. And for me, if it's just like one of those malaise games like we saw on July 3rd, the one hit game against Cleveland, that's gonna happen. Whatever, it's fine. The games that they lose to the Red Sox, like as long as they avoid those type of defeats, and you're gonna have some over the course of a 162 game season, but as long as they don't make a habit of losing like that, then the wins and losses don't really matter the rest of the season. They just got to prime up for October.
Right, and like so often you'll just forget, like, oh man, like, oh, the Yankees look flat those 2 games. Like, dude, they're on the ninth and 10th games of a 10-game road trip. They're tired, right? A lot of these guys are banged up, like especially the bullpen. So like I think that's like the first thing you're gonna really see, and like the end of the end of a long road trip, the end of a long stretch where how many Yankees have already had a couple where they've played like 23 games in 24 days, right? You're going to see the bullpen, the arms just aren't as sharp. Like a lot of these guys have, this is like their third or fourth time pitching in the last 5-6 days, right? And even if even though the Yankees never use guys 3 days in a row and always try to like manage that well, a lot of these guys have been overworked. I mean, Clay and Mike King are like 2 of the most, used relievers in all of baseball. Now, they definitely have to like kind of minimize their usage as the season goes on, because you don't want those guys burnt out come October, right? Because they've used both those guys a lot and they've both been phenomenal. But it's very easy to fall in love with guys in the bullpen and to kind of wear them out by September, October. So yeah, man, the Yankees, they just really need to figure out. I really think they need to add some bullpen arms. Obviously, they didn't foresee, Green and Loizaga both being out. Obviously, Green's out for the year. Hopefully, Loizaga comes back soon. But yeah, it's going to be, I think that's like you said, Andrew. I'm almost like, for me, I'm almost more like at this point, my focus is like fully on, all right, who's this team adding before the trade deadline? Like, that's what I care more about, like, than the wins and losses right now. Because, like you said, something catastrophic would have to happen for us to be like in a battle for the division. Obviously, we've seen some crazy things in baseball and division races and sports in general. But yeah, at this point, I think the Yankees are smooth sailing, and it really is about who is this team going to add to really put themselves in a position. Because right now, obviously, you'd have to say they're probably the favorites to win it all with their record and with the team they have. But it's the difference between just being, probable favorites and just being firm, like legitimate, no doubt about it favorites. And I really think they could be that with a couple of additions to the bullpen. But who knows? Maybe they don't need to add anyone, right? Like like it's always anytime a team doesn't add anyone and gets guys back from injuries, like, oh well, this was like our trade, right? This was like our signing, getting these guys back, and maybe I feel like the Yankees may be thinking that when it comes, with Loizaga and Herman. So we'll see, but yeah, guys, G, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like acquisitions and bullpen and all that stuff, like for guys like Lasagna, right? He's had a shoulder injury. Like he's had some concerning stuff happen lately. So like you can't count on anyone to be healthy until they're healthy. And Zach Britton coming back from Tommy John, like we all expect him back, maybe sooner than we all thought. But like those guys would be great additions. But if there's other additions that become available, bullpen arms, starters, whatever, just go get them. Right. Like if you want to say consideration of a couple of years ago, like they didn't go get Verlander, the Astros got Verlander. That was a huge swing moment in a series. But this Yankee team is good. It's really good. Yeah, like this Yankee team is really good. So if you were saying like, oh, a couple of years ago, maybe we were a building team or whatever, now you're a favorite and you should operate as such and don't take that shit for granted. Push your chips to the middle of the table. If there's a clear-cut upgrade for an outfield, for a starter, for a bullpen, definitely go get it. You can replenish your farm system at some point. You don't have to worry about that bullshit anymore. The Yankees farm system is plenty good enough. Go get the upgrade.
Win now mode.
Yes, become and this is the silly thing. This is all digression. I don't care. People say like, oh, you gave up XYZ to get whomever, Justin Verlander, whoever, like for one championship. Was it worth it? Like, how stupid is that? Was it worth it? Did you win a championship? Yeah, you sure did. So like,
anything for a championship.
Right. Like that's dumb. Like, is it worth it? Is a 20-whatever-year-old prospect who hasn't seen the big leagues yet worth, a championship? Yeah, I think so. So if you can get the upgrade, go get the upgrade. And then, I don't know. I mean, coming out of the Red Sox series, they got a split. It's an annoying split. They got it. Have a big lead in the standings. That's all wonderful. Like Andrew said, if they're competing for a division title at the end of the season, something has gone wrong. But I would say, the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe it'll be a little bit weird, maybe hard to judge. I think coming in to the All-Star break, long road trip, big lead in the division, couple injuries here or there, go into the Red Sox series, get a split. I think and especially, with the All-Star break right after all that, maybe they got a little complacent, got a little bit of malaise, trying to coast through the finish line to the All-Star break. Right after the All-Star break, you have the trade deadline. So, it's going to be a weird couple weeks, I think. They should win the Red Series. They hopefully will win the Red Sox series. But coming out of the All-Star break, have potential for some meaningful, significant changes maybe to the roster. And after that, you got to go. And you have to put your hammer down again. And as the season goes on, you get to the August. They play the Red Sox again in August. They play the Red Sox they play division games all September, right? As you get later into the season, that's where I want to see them really mean business. And if they're fucking around and, bringing in Miguel Castro and committing errors and all that stuff in September, then I'll be worried. Right now, not that worried.
Exactly. And it's crazy because including those last 3 games, the fact that we pretty much didn't play the Red Sox first half of the year, I think almost 20% of our remaining games are against the Red Sox. So yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of them. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But hopefully we have 6 games this week. We're definitely going to have a podcast. I'm not sure whether it's going to be before or after the Home Run Derby and All-Star game, but we'll definitely have a pod during the All-Star break. Second half of the season, it gets started real quick, right? That first Thursday, it's a doubleheader against Houston. So right away, it's you're gonna have a few days. Obviously, it's gonna be the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game that we'll all probably watch. But yeah, that Thursday we get right back into it with the doubleheader in Houston. So and then we play at this point the hottest team in baseball we play in Baltimore, right? A 3-game set against the O's. So yeah, and then 2-game set against the Mets at Citi Field. So yeah, those are 7 tough games to come out of break. So yeah, this team's gonna be tested right away, and like I said, All-Star trade deadline's coming up, so we'll see who this team adds. But that's going to do it for us tonight. For Luigi, for Andrew, for G, this was the Bronx Battle Podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.